Just about all of our workplaces function in the blue zone because they were created by and run by men. For women, this poses an enormous challenge because even though we work in the blue zone, we don't really understand it. We have a lot of misperceptions coming from narratives written by women who have never been a woman working in a man's world. So in this video, I'm going to correct those misperceptions and explain to you how the blue zone really functions so you can better understand your workplace and the men you work with. When I began my career, we were told that the male-dominated workplace was a hierarchy that used survival of the fittest. So women wrote a narrative that said we needed to tear down men to raise up women. Unfortunately, this narrative has endured, and we only need to look at the comments in social media to see how dysfunctional it is and realize that if our workplaces actually function like this, they never accomplish anything. So the tear down to rise up narrative is wrong. And using it overemphasizes the importance of power and hierarchies and ignores the fact that we now live in the 21st century and rebelled against authoritarian hierarchies centuries ago and replaced them with societies that aspire to individual liberty and equal opportunity. These are the ideals men carry into the workplace, which is why autonomy is the dominant blue zone trait and all other traits support autonomy. After working with thousands of men, I've come to think of autonomy as men's personal declaration of independence, giving them empowerment and self-determination. As teenagers, they couldn't wait to be adults and be free from their parents' authority so they could do what they want, when they want, how they want. But with this freedom, they also had to accept responsibility and accountability for the consequences of their actions. In the workplace, men want to keep their autonomy. They want to be given a task and then be left alone to get it done. They don't want their boss treating them like a child again, looking over their shoulder and telling them what to do. And their bosses respect this because they want to be treated the same way by their boss. So blue zone workplaces are designed and organized so everyone can work autonomously in their own job, applying their own expertise. Now, autonomy works really well when men have simple, independent tasks, but that changes when complexity enters the picture and the job requires everyone to work together. Since the complex job can't be done by one man, in order to preserve autonomy, it's fragmented into smaller tasks and assigned to each man based on his expertise to work on independently. The blue zone expects that if each man does his best, then the final result will be superior. But when all the pieces are brought back together, they don't fit. They're Swiss cheese holes. What happened? Well, autonomy allowed each man to only think about his task and use it to showcase his expertise. He didn't think about how his piece would fit into the larger project. This throws the workplace into crisis as it tries to find and fix the Swiss cheese holes. Up to this point, men were restrained in their energy because they knew they had to save it up for this last-minute hard push that would continue until they either hit their stress limit or they run out of time. Then they are done, and it is what it is. Obviously, working like this isn't good, so our workplaces turn to this favorite blue zone solution. It's belief in the power of the individual man. Now, as the old saying goes, when our workplace has lots of problems, it's up to its waist in alligators. Therefore, it needs the ultimate man, the man legends are written about, who can single-handedly slay all the alligators and make our problems disappear. I call him the Great American Alligator Slayer. But you may know him as our most valuable players, our heroes, and all of those men we have singled out and put up on a pedestal. What all these men have in common is that they get things done. They take the action that solves problems. They deliver tangible results, and they achieve the workplace objective. For their achievements, they earn the respect of all other men and are rewarded with great status. But what really distinguishes these men is that they aren't afraid of accountability. They know that the power of the individual that credits them for achievements will also blame them for failures and take away their status. This is why many men dread accountability and are trying to change how the blue zone awards status. These men don't like how the blue zone awards the man at the top with great status, but also gives him the ultimate accountability. This is why in today's Blue Zone, the outside consultants and experts who influence the workplace but don't hold themselves accountable for the results want to claim the greatest status. They want to define status as having unquestionable expertise that separates them from accountability. This has unleashed a huge conflict in the Blue Zone that I call swamp wars. It's about which man deserves the greatest respect and status. Is it the doer who gains status through hands-on experience, taking action, and risking failure to deliver results? Or is it the expert who gains status through education, directing others, and avoiding accountability? The battle's intense because society is elevating the experts without understanding how accountability prevents the return of authoritarians. Fortunately, men know how to deal with authoritarians. When they work for an authoritarian, they rebel, not by fighting, but by increasing their autonomy. Every man goes off and does what he wants, when he wants, how he wants, for as long as he wants. And for the authoritarian boss, regaining control is worse than herding cats. This is why in today's workplace, we should never associate hierarchies with power, but with greater responsibility and accountability. And understand that our workplace hierarchy is really about men using their linear perspective to empower autonomy and task expertise. The Blue Zone loves its lines. It uses them to fragment, arrange, and organize things into individual identities. We see this in our workplace's organizational chart, the functional silos it creates, and in the arrangement of our individual cubicles. But these lines also have a second purpose. They establish boundaries that limit autonomy. And for that reason, these lines are essential to a well-functioning Blue Zone workplace, except they also limit communication. Now, as women, we're taught that the man at the top issues directives and everyone below him carries it out. But in spite of the neat and orderly lines of communication, the reality is that the people at the bottom seldom hear the directive. And men, they don't work very hard to fix this, because when things go wrong, their poor communication helps everyone avoid accountability. For women, our workplace's poor communication can be a goldmine of opportunity, but we can easily screw it up because we don't understand autonomy, so we wind up stepping on egos and ruining our workplace relationships. We also destroy our workplace relationships by believing we have to be aggressive and fierce in order to get ahead. This, of course, comes from our old tear down to rise up narrative, which makes us associate men's offensive aggression with survival of the fittest, when we should be associating it with sports. Like a sports team, the Blue Zone workplace has an objective and an opponent who wants to stop them. So each man has his task in offensively driving the ball down the field past his opponents to score. Competition and winning are important to the Blue Zone because they unite men. But even in teamwork, men remain in the Blue Zone. As they pass the ball from man to man, they maintain their linear progression, task expertise, and autonomy. By winning, men prove they can overcome obstacles and get things done. And this gives them their most commanding Blue Zone trait, power over change. Using power over change, men can conquer, tear down, and rebuild according to their plan. It tells them they have the power to determine and create their own destiny. And even though we've been taught this is incredibly powerful, there are still Swiss cheese holes that create all kinds of negative consequences and problems. For all its strengths and power, the Blue Zone consistently has one great flaw. Because it thrives on autonomy, it can't conquer complexity. But the Blue Zone will never admit this. Instead, it awards the power of the individual with the power over change to convert complexity to simplicity. And it promotes the idea that men can take a simple action and deliver big results. Simplicity allows the Blue Zone to ignore all the actions necessary to get the desired result, and all the consequences of a single action, which is why ignoring complexity often leads to disaster, especially if men are allowed to avoid accountability. Power over change allows men to believe that whatever action they take will produce the results they want just because they will it to happen. And when problems arise, many of the leaders and experts who are supposed to know how to fix the problems run and hide from accountability behind the closed door of their echo chamber where they tell each other everything's just fine. And this is why power over change can be the most dangerous and destructive blue zone trait. As we go deeper into the 21st century, complexity will continue to grow in her power, but the blue zone still thinks it can conquer her with its secret weapon, technology. However, complexity knows technology is a male-dominated industry that operates deep in the blue zone. And even though it tells us it creates connections, complexity knows it just increases fragmentation, strengthens autonomy, and reduces accountability. So complexity doesn't buy into the blue zone propaganda. She knows technology can't create wholeness, and it certainly can't replace women and the pink zone. So she'll continue to be the ultimate workplace bitch until we recognize the equality and value of women to all workplaces and women take their rightful place alongside men. Even though I've covered a lot in this video, I've only scratched the surface of explaining the blue zone. So keep checking for more videos under my playlist, Understanding the Male-Dominated Workplace. And continue watching the next video in this series because I'm going to be talking about the pink zone. And let me tell you, if you think we have a lot of misunderstandings about the blue zone, wait till you realize how much we've been misled about our own strengths and value. This is Dot Callahan asking you to help me turn the woman in the room into the women in the room. Sign up for my newsletter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, or find the Woman in the Room on Facebook. It's up to you. Just keep watching and sharing my videos. To get advice from a woman who's been there, dealt with that, and knows what works.